What's up? Today we're actually going to be looking at my Rainbow Cup. Just some quick notes before we get started. I will tell you that this tournament was unranked. I plan to do a video in the next week or so talking a little bit about what's been going on in the last month with me in my personal life. And it's not really like a plea or a cry or anything like that. It's just that I think it would be very therapeutic for me to do this video. So I definitely want to spend a little bit of time next week making the video and then publishing the video. And I think that the people who actually care will watch it. The people that are here just for Pokemon, that's completely fine. If you're interested in it, you can watch it, but it's not going to pertain to Pokemon whatsoever. But there's been a ton of stuff that's happened in the month of June, and I feel like it would be helpful for me to just let it out. On to the tournament. This tournament was unranked, and it was the last tournament available in my local area, unfortunately. There were several people interested on the Sylph page, but ended up being only 6 participants, myself and 5 others. So unfortunately, I will not have a ranked Rainbow Cup on my player card, but it is what it is. I mean, yes, it would be nice if it was ranked and I got, you know, more credit for it or whatever. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's not honestly what this is about for me. It's about the fun of it. And like, I sat down after round 1 and I told my fiance, like, this isn't even going to be ranked. It's not going to be like counted towards my player ranking, like nothing like that. And she was just like, so you want to leave? And I was like, no. I was like, it's not about that more so than it is about just having fun playing the game. So that's definitely what my goal is here, is to just play the game and have fun. So I think with today, it was definitely a lot of fun. Another important thing to note is that round 1 is against a adolescent child. I don't really know age-wise how old she was, but she looked around 10 or 11 possibly. So that is a thing. Round 2 is against a guy who this was his first tournament, and we'll talk a little bit about something that happened with him. The last round was against the staff member that was there, and he definitely had been to tournaments before. He knew what he was doing. He wanted to start these tournaments up. In the local Discord group that they have for the area, there were plenty of people, but apparently there's just not that many people interested in PvP in the area, which, if this is the first tournament that they've ever had in the city of Statesville, then that kind of does make sense. Once they get a little bit more exposure, a little bit more participants out there that are aware that Statesville is going to be running them, then I think it will boost the numbers. Hopefully, I could possibly go back next month. He did say that they would be having it on the 20th, and my plans, I don't know if that conflicts with my plans for my Jungle Cup next month, because this was a last minute decision based on everything that's been going on. So I didn't intend to go to Statesville to begin with, but because it was the only tournament available, I needed to at least attempt to participate in one. So as far as the team that I ended up taking today, I ended up going with Fortress, Quagsire, Ivysaur, Medcargo, Mantine, and Raichu. Luckily, some of these Pokemon were kind of gifted to me from, you know, local friends, but Mantine especially, I didn't have one, and like a week before my original plan, I got one, and I'm really proud of the Mantine. I really wanted to run Mantine this month. I felt like he was extremely interesting and extremely cool. Even though he had a super duper weakness to electric typing, it was well worth the benefits versus the drawbacks that he had. So I definitely like that. I didn't have any fire types that I really felt comfortable using. Originally I was going to use Typhlosion, but I ended up opting for Magcargo just because instead of running a fire type to really combat the grass types, I kind of just wanted to run a fire type to be an anti-fire type. That was just kind of like the way that I wanted to play it. Ivysaur was kind of like my only other like kind of sort of grass option next to Mantine. Like, I don't know, I didn't really have a lot of fire answers, but I really didn't feel like I was going to see too many of them, except for probably Charizard, which I actually did run into one today, and it played out perfectly. We'll get into that. Magcargo was kind of my answer to Charizard anyways, so I kind of felt like that was okay to kind of skimp a little bit on the fire types because I wasn't expecting too many, and because I was kind of just trying to be an anti-fire. But then that poses the grass type problem, which is why Mantine really helped. I did have Fortress, but I didn't end up using him at all today, oddly enough, which was interesting. But he was there if I really felt like there was a grass heavy team that I wanted to bring him in on. And then I had Ivysaur, which actually did come in handy once today, playing up against a Venusaur, I'm pretty sure is the matchup. I was kind of lacking in that area, but at the same time, I knew that was going to be my weakness, so I tried to play around that as much as I could. And then the other parts of the team, like Quagsire, he's pretty self-explanatory why he's being ran. Raichu, I don't have any legacy electric Pokemon like Magneton or anything like that, so Raichu was just kind of like my next best option. With him having Brick Break, it was okay, I guess. I didn't run into too many situations where I absolutely wanted to use Brick Break. Basically, Wild Charge did all the work for me. So yeah, that's basically the gist of the team. After all of that, let's go ahead and jump into these games here. We are going to see round one, like I said, up against a young girl. She was actually extremely smart for her age. She knew a lot of the typings. She knew what she was doing. She didn't know more so of the intricacies of PvP, which was to be expected. She didn't really know, like, she didn't understand like charge move priority, and things like that, and we'll kind of see that. But let's go ahead and get into round one here. So as you can see in round one, we do have Lantern, Raichu, Lapras, Entei, Meganium, and Quagsire on the opposing team. Sitting across the table, I was kind of thinking, like, I don't know, like, I do see some weakness to grass, which is pretty good. The only one that's really going to contest my Ivysaur is going to be the Entei. So I'm thinking that Ivysaur is probably the safest one to go with here. So I start with Ivysaur, I go with Quagsire, and then I have Raichu in the back. Because she does actually have several water type Pokemon, I wanted to bring Raichu in as that counter in case Ivysaur ends up not being able to do the work. So lead with Ivysaur, she leads with Entei, perfect lead for her. I immediately switch into Quagsire to try to do some damage. She switches into Lantern, which was odd to say the least, but that just happened. So I started off throwing out Stone Edges. I actually didn't end up using Acid Spray at all today. I did try to get one off as I was dying with Quagsire, but I really didn't have enough time to get it off. It was kind of poor, but anyways, I did feel like this month I really did try to think about shielding, like which moves I was going to be able to tank rather than just like waste a shield, because I'm only going to tank like, you know, 1/10 of my health doing that move. So I definitely tried to pay more attention to that type of stuff to try to save my shields for more optimal situations. And you'll see in the later rounds that I actually just ended matches with more shields than I needed. So that was actually a really nice thing. So I ended up taking out the Entei there. She does bring in the Quagsire. I figured it was going to have Earthquake, didn't have any shields to go with though. So whipping out the Ivysaur here, she does end up blocking that, and I barely end up getting this next Power Whip to actually take out the Quagsire there. An extremely close round one, and I congratulated her very much. I told her that it's very impressive that she does know what she knows about Pokemon, because at such an early age, it's very exciting to see someone actually care this much to put this much time into it. So very cool. So going into round two, I don't really feel like my team needs to like really switch. I feel like I do have the 3 team members that I like up against her team. I do want to switch the order though here. I'm pretty sure I put something in first instead of Ivysaur. I think I just switched Raichu. No, I actually keep the exact same spread. Okay, so starting off with Ivysaur here, I was expecting her not to go with Entei again, so that actually worked out pretty well for me. I do get her to switch first, which means I can switch into Quagsire here, kind of put in some work with our Stone Edge. I decide not to shield. Of course, I'm thinking heavily more about the actual damage that I'm going to receive at this point, so I do feel a lot better about that aspect of my gameplay. By the way, I did like no practice for the Rainbow Cup. Like this month being as crazy as it was, I didn't have any practice. So right there was when I tried to get off the acid spray, but quickly died. Unfortunately, couldn't get that off. Do have the Ivysaur here whip out that Vine Whip and do some damage. She does bring out the Meganium. Luckily, my Ivysaur is a beast. I love the Ivysaur. I do think that Venusaur definitely does have a little bit more of a stronghold on the meta, but I mean that situation right there is one of the reasons that I do love Ivysaur, and the reason that I actually really love Vine Whip over Razor Leaf. If I was using Razor Leaf there, I would not have had the energy stored up as quickly to get off that Sludge Bomb to help take out the Meganium. Meganium having access to Earthquake would have really done some freaking damage to me. Either way though, that was round one, a quick 2-0. Very, very good round for the young lady that I played against. It was really nice to play and to meet you if you ever see this. So thank you, and I hope that it turned out really well. And it was a really fun experience today, more than an extremely competitive experience for you, because I think that's what's going to bring you back. If it's not fun, you're not going to come back. So hopefully it was fun. Now on to round two here. This guy had never played in a tournament before, and I do give him a bit of leeway with this, but so immediately after we joined, he didn't even look at the RSVP page. He immediately went into Pokemon Go. He immediately sent me a request to battle and was like, all right, this is the team I'm using. And then he was like, wait a minute, you can't look at that. You can't be looking at your screen because those are my Pokemon. And I was like, wait a minute, no, you look at mine and I look at yours and we decide on which 3 to bring in. And he was like, no, that's cheating. And I was like, no, no. That's not how this works. So he turned around and asked the staff guy, they're part of the same community, so they were at least like on a basis of like, hey man, what, is this guy cheating or what? So he asked him and he was like, no, you're supposed to look at his team, he looks at your team, you guys pick on which 3 that you want to take in. So right then and there, I kind of knew what to expect. This guy's team does consist of Gyarados, Raichu, Arcanine, Zapdos, Lapras, and Celebi. And as you guys know, we did talk about Celebi during the Rainbow Cup, and Celebi was one of those that was like super underwhelming. As much as I hated to say this, I really did hope that he used it so that he could kind of see that it wasn't what he initially thought it was going to be. So getting into the matches here, I remember him choosing Gyarados first in the first round. I think that was his lead, which I remember thinking to myself like, holy cow, he may really love this Gyarados and he may try to lead with it again. I couldn't remember exactly what I chose. So here I end up going with Ivysaur, Magcargo, and Raichu as my team. The guy ends up, we went to battle and for some reason it kicked him out. We had that happen like a couple of times today. I think it was just a small GPS issue. So going in with my team, Ivysaur, Magcargo. I felt like Magcargo was probably going to be one of the better Pokemon in this situation up against his team. His team wasn't like super weak to it or anything. As you can see here, I do start off with the Ivysaur. He does have the Gyarados, and going for some sweet Power Whip damage. This guy, I tried to explain after the matches, but he kind of like, I don't know. I think he wasn't sure on how much damage everything was going to be doing. I don't know necessarily that he understood when to shield and when not to shield. Being that this is his first tournament, I definitely don't blame him for that. It just takes a little bit of time and practice to get into that rhythm. I definitely did opt to go with Magcargo there to do neutral damage with the Rock Throw at least, versus the resisted damage from my Raichu there. So that was a pretty quick game one. I don't think, did I use a shield? I don't remember. But either way, you can kind of see that the outcome of this match is going to be slightly in my favor, considering I've competed a little bit more than he has. So going into round 2 here, I think that my 3 picks are pretty much optimal. I just kind of switch around what I'm doing here. As you can see, he leads with Zapdos this time, which was an interesting pick in this cup. With Wild Charge here, it's going to do neutral damage, and it does a lot of neutral damage. Having Arcanine here, he does end up having Bite on it, which Bite I wasn't super duper worried about. I'm sorry. He does not have Bite. He has Fire Fang. I remember seeing the animation for the teeth, but he ends up going with Lapras, and I literally just choose Ivysaur. I think he was just shiny flexing with the Lapras. I don't know necessarily that his Lapras was PvP ready, so to speak. I don't think it had 2 moves. I only got to see the Hydro Pump here, but as you can see, a pretty quick 2-0 there from him. And yeah, I would say round 2 was a little interesting, to say the least. I mean, I almost feel bad because I am a little bit more experienced than him. I did try to explain a little bit after, because he was complaining. He was like, I don't see, like, I was hitting my charge move, but I wasn't able to fire it off. And I was like, well, so there's a duration. And I kind of got into some of the intricacies of PvP and was telling him about how you can't actually hit your charge move until your fast move has completed. I was like, it's kind of a weird way to think about it, but basically you can't do something until your current action is finished. And he was kind of like, oh, okay, like he kind of started to get the idea. And hopefully he doesn't take today as so hard on himself. I really do hope that he accepts it as a learning experience, and hopefully he wants to compete again next month. He did express some good thoughts after the tournament. He did seem like he was interested to compete again. He did talk about the Jungle Cup a little bit, which was really cool. But yeah, I definitely think that he has a lot of potential. Just kind of needs to spend a little bit of time learning a little bit more of the technical side of PvP, and easily could do really well there. So into round 3 here, this is against the staff member who ran the tournament today. Definitely the most formidable opponent today. He had a very meta team. So he actually was running Venusaur, did have Frenzy Plant, Charizard. I'm not really sure what movesets it had. It didn't last long, which you'll see. Lantern, I did hear him mention before I got to play him, it was in an earlier round, I did hear him say he was running Charge Beam Lantern, which I immediately knew at that point I didn't want to lead with Mantine, just because Mantine was going to be kind of like an awkward lead. But I think in round 2 I actually end up leading with it, because I didn't think that he would have thought that far ahead. Like, I was trying to keep that in my mind, but I didn't know if he was going to remember spitting that information out. So then he had Poliwrath, which was a Mudshot Poliwrath, which did actually do a lot of work. Quagsire, of course, and then he was actually running his old Mantine. So very interesting team setup here. So let's actually get into this. So setting up with my team here, immediately I think that Magcargo is probably the better lead in most of these situations, literally because if he's running Charge Beam Lantern, he doesn't have any water fast attacks to really hurt me, unless his Mantine just happens to be running Bubble, which I was like, okay, it's one fast move out of 6 and probably not going to happen. So I definitely felt like Magcargo was my strongest lead here, and it really helped out here. So he does have the Poliwrath. I end up doing a little bit of work up against the Poliwrath here, but knowing that he's going to be using Power Punch, it is super effective, but I wanted to at least try to farm a little bit of energy there. Then actually ended up tanking an Ice Punch. I definitely feel like he should have went for another Power Up Punch there. Wild Charge, of course, is going to do some great damage here. I'm actually going to try to save my Raichu just to try to get this Poliwrath down a little bit further. I should have probably gone with the Brick Break just to not waste the energy, but it is what it is there. So try to save this Ivysaur because I just have so much health here. I don't want that Ice Punch to hurt me. I'm pretty sure I remember him stating that he misclicked there and didn't mean to bring in the Venusaur, but I also remember him saying, well, let's try this. So I think maybe he accidentally hit Venusaur and he was like, oh well, he was like, let's try this, I guess. So Definitely doing a little bit of work there. If I had only got to that sludge bomb just a tiny bit faster, that would have been a great match. So this actually let me farm up the energy for Stone Edge, and it didn't matter what he was bringing out. I was throwing Stone Edge out, and it just happened to be Charizard, which of course Charizard gets annihilated by Stone Edge there. So very good round one. Very, very thoughtful opponent. He did actually put a lot of thought into his team of 3, and I definitely think that it made me go back to the drawing board a little bit. And as you can see here in round 2, I'm thinking about like, what do I want to lead with? If I lead with Mantine, the only thing that's really going to hurt me is going to be that Charge Beam. But here again, 1 out of 6 chance that he leads off with Lantern, so I end up going with the Mantine lead, which actually works out pretty well. As you can see there, he did actually lose connection with me. I'm pretty sure it was just a GPS issue, but I did actually get to see his Poliwrath, and I'm assuming he didn't get to see mine. I don't know if that would be considered fair or unfair, but since we both got booted, we both just used the same teams anyways. So ended up going with Mantine here. The ground type move is not doing a lot to me, and Power Up Punch is not going to be doing a lot to me, so I am feeling really, really good here. He does switch out at the last second. He goes with the Venusaur here. I do have a little bit of an advantage in this matchup as well. I'm still feeling pretty nice, and trying to actually get off some damage. In the moment though, I really could not remember if Aerial Ace was going to be more or less effective than Ice Beam. I just couldn't remember which one was going to output more damage, so I opted to go for the Ice Beam to kind of scare him, and then went for the flying type move damage for the second time. So ended up with Magcargo here. He does whip out and already has the damage there, but he actually has Quagsire here, and I'm like, uh-oh. I was like, this is not good. So I do try to just waste out any energy that I have, trying to just get rid of it. I know that he's pretty much going to be farmed at this point, and this is not a good situation for me. Luckily, I do have the 1 shield. I knew based on how much energy he was charging that he did not have either Acid Spray or Sludge Bomb. I knew that he was going to be running with either Stone Edge or Earthquake. I didn't try to count fast moves or anything like that, but I definitely knew that it was going to be one of the harder hitting moves, so I definitely wanted to try to save that shield there. And as you can see, that was a quick round 3. So all in all, I guess technically I did pretty well. I said this in my Discord that today was a win for what that's worth, but it didn't really feel like, because it was unranked, it didn't really feel like I won, if that makes any sense. Nonetheless, it was still a great experience. I'm happy that I went and I got to compete. I do wish that there were at least 2 more players there to make it an even 8, so that we could have had at least 1 ranked tournament this month, but it is what it is, you know. I definitely want to say that I put my personal life first, and I think that's probably more adult of me than I'm used to being. So I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, so I did actually end up taking the tournament, and I do have the clip from when he actually announced it, and I did get a sweet little rainbow badge.
Blue tournament. Okay, so we have Atticus Nair as our victorious undefeated champion for the Rainbow Cup. As a reward, he gets Rainbow Badge.
Oh, sweet, dude.
And that will conclude our tournament for today. Thanks again for everybody coming out and participating. I hope to see you at the next one.
So that is actually going to be it for the Rainbow Cup, guys. Hopefully you guys had as much fun this month as I did. Rainbow Cup was probably the only cup so far where towards the end of the month I did not feel like, oh my god, it's time to move on. Let's go ahead and get this next cup out. Oddly enough, I don't know why. It's just the first month that I've not been like eager to get into the next one. I was very comfortable in the Rainbow Cup with the actual Pokemon that we were talking about, at least. So the Jungle Cup is kind of similar. I don't think it's going to be that way though towards the end. But either way, definitely a fun experience. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the tournament. Hopefully you guys are still enjoying PvP. It does seem like ever since Worlds there has been a big die down on the viewership of not not just my videos, but like PvP in general, I don't see people like talking about PvP as much. I don't know, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just with all my personal stuff going on, I've been blind. But anyways, that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Thanks so much for watching. Always remember that if you do like to like videos, you could do that. But if you don't, you could be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what you have to say down in the comments below. Of course, you guys always critique my gameplay. I did feel pretty good about today. There were a couple of mishaps where I probably should have used one charge move over the other. I don't feel like I made any too bad switches. I did think about them. I don't remember any like absolutely horrible ones. But anyways, that is actually going to be it for today, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for watching. Until our next video, I will catch you then.